Today we are covering Connemara National Park in County Galway, Ireland. Here you can see the map of Connemara and where you can see major points that you can visit, including lakes, peaks, and Kyle Moore's estate, and more.
Connemara National Park, along with all Irish national parks, have a Category 2 protected area rating from the International Union for Conservation of Nature, which demands a high degree of conservation to keep the landscape, wildlife, and ecology as near as possible to how nature intended, while allowing its use for recreation, education, and research.
Let's move into the history. Connemara National Park was founded in 1990 and spans 4,900 acres of mountains, bogs, heaths, grasslands, and forests near County Galway. Here we have the Kyle Moore Estate, which is a gorgeous castle previously owned by Michael Henry. He made this a place for him and his family to live in the 19th century. Then the castle was owned by a Duke and Duchess of Manchester until it was sold due to unpaid debts. It was then converted into a Benedictine for nuns fleeing from Belgium during World War I. It now serves as a hotel for visitors to stay. Around the same plot of land was the Letterfrack Industrial School. This school has a robust history in the past on how teachers used to abuse the children, so much so that there was a graveyard on campus. This now serves as a reminder about the abuse that the children went through. The PA was declared because of a man named Richard Humanity Dick Martin. He helped form a society for the prevention of cruelty to animals. This spiraled into the government loving his ideas and decided to make it a national park. Luckily, there was no displacement of any indigenous peoples since by this time in the 80s, there was nobody really living there besides Richard. Now the PA is state-owned for conservation and recreation.
Today, Connemara National Park faces multiple direct ecological threats. Particularly in the surrounding regions of the park, overfishing has greatly diminished important fish stocks and continues to be a large issue in Ireland. If left unmanaged, this could potentially threaten the park's own ecosystem. In addition, Connemara attracts thousands of visitors each year, providing important economic support. However, large numbers of tourists has led to harmful environmental impacts. Among these include biodiversity loss from boat traffic and litter, which has been observed mainly in the park's salt marshes. Management for the park has been working on new infrastructure for visitors, such as more extensive trails and fences. These projects have already disrupted native species like red deer, pearl mussels, and grouse populations, and will continue to do so as the park's capacity for visitors is increased. Archaeologist Michael Gibbons states that, quote, a policy of tourism maximization is likely to permanently impair the value of the park as a conservation asset. The largest threat to Connemara National Park is Rhododendron ponticum, a non-native invasive plant species which has largely taken over many regions of the park, and which poses a danger to native plants. Historically, this plant is native to the Iberian Peninsula and Southwest Asia, and was thought to be brought to Ireland in the mid to late 18th century. At first, it was expensive to purchase and was made hardier over time through domestication and hybridization. Eventually, it became more popular by the late 1800s and was being used as ornamental, a cover crop, and as a rootstock. By 1880, Rhododendron ponticum had escaped and become well established in Ireland. This issue was further exacerbated by its being ignored until between World Wars I and II. Since then, Ireland has been continuously trying to suppress it. This species is found all throughout Ireland and thrives in mires, grasslands, heaths, woodlands, and constructed habitats. It spreads easily, being able to root anywhere where its branches touch the ground. Additionally, each individual plant can produce over 1 million seeds. Rhododendron ponticum is problematic because it crowds out native plants, is detrimental to biodiversity, and harms natural processes near rivers and streams. It may also produce allelopathic chemicals, which inhibit the growth of other plants, and is also a host for an invasive species called sudden oak death that threatens numerous tree species. Lastly, honey which is made by bees that collect pollen from rhododendron could be toxic to humans. Underlying causes affecting this threat include its high cost and difficulty of removal. Limited park funding may be a contributor of this cause, however, this plant is well established and still sold throughout the majority of Ireland. The market for rhododendron, as well as the public's perception and aesthetic preference for it, threaten the park indirectly. Insufficient government intervention, as well as habitat degradation from development and grazing, worsen the impact of this species.
To manage this direct threat, the park uses several threat management tools. The first tool, planning legislation, ensures that rhododendron clearance complies with conservation law. Under the European Communities, Birds and Natural Habitats Regulations and Article 6 of the European Habitat Directive, the project underwent a screening for appropriate assessment in March of 2023. The Ecological Assessment Unit of Ireland's Department of Housing determined that the removal of rhododendron is a, quote, necessary conservation measure directly connected with the management of the site, end quote. This legal framework allowed the project to proceed as part of the park's duty to maintain the favorable conservation condition of the area. The second tool is management zoning. Specific infestation areas were carefully mapped within the SAC, or Special Area of Conservation, with control work focused on the most sensitive habitats, like old sessile oak woods and blanket bogs. The removal process depends on the size of the plant. Smaller ones are pulled out manually, while larger stems are treated with a 14% glyphosate solution applied directly to cut or notched stems. No foliar spraying is permitted, and all refilling of herbicide takes place off-site to avoid contamination. This zoning approach minimizes disturbance and prevents chemical runoffs into nearby rivers or bogs. In addition to these internal park measures, the surrounding region also benefits from the work of the Dulra project. Dulra, meaning nature in Irish, is a community-led conservation initiative focused on controlling rhododendron in Connemara. Dora uses the National Park Wildlife Service's recommended stem herbicide method rather than foliar spraying and emphasizes collaboration with local landowners and volunteers to expand management zones and sustain long-term invasive species control. Finally, monitoring and evaluation procedures also play a crucial role. After each clearance, National Parks and Wildlife Service staff inspect treated areas to verify correct methods and check for regrowth. If rhododendron persists, the same area is retreated within 6 months. These regular follow-ups, combined with the visual inspections and record keeping, ensure accountability and allow adaptive improvements over time. These three tools have made the program largely successful. While complete eradication will take years because rhododendron seeds can remain viable in the soil for several seasons, these approaches have already improved habitat quality and advanced the park's conservation objectives.
The park uses principle number 1, which is PA managers need to intervene so that the impacts of human-caused threats are reduced. These displayed on your screen is from their website on how visitors and recreators can reduce their footprint.
Connemara would benefit from Management Principle 6, the immediate and decisive intervention of its main threat, Rhododendron ponticum. Due to the plant's rapid spread and unique durability, hasty and thorough removal would most effectively reduce its impact.
Connemara National Park puts Principle 9 into action by using education as a key tool to reduce threats in the park. The park promotes respect and care for the natural world through guided walks, school visits, and interactive learning programs. These activities help visitors understand the importance of protecting habitats. By encouraging environmentally friendly practices and sharing the work of the National Parks and Wildlife Service, Connemara helps people see their role in conservation. This kind of education brings awareness, changes behavior, and ultimately reduces human pressures on the park's fragile ecosystem.